Jason is one of the smartest dude I've met, and he says really good things about you. So like I'm just honored to have you on.
Yeah, we both of us, I mean, we know stuff other people don't know. So,
Mhm.
you love volleyball, obviously. I was a collegiate volleyball athlete.
Really?
Yeah, so it's one of those things I absolutely love. And obviously, I sent you some stuff just to basically to toot my own horn and say, hey, uh, maybe I know a thing or two about volleyball that we can,
Yeah.
discuss. And with your audience, because I know you work with both the pros and all the way down to sort of youth athletes.
Hmm.
If we can prevent them from injuring themselves,
Yeah.
if they get injured, how great can they be?
Yeah.
You
I
know,
agree. I
so
see so many like, and that's really the biggest like thing that stops athlete from progressing is that injury. Like, and as myself as an athlete, that's like the worst thing that happens is like you get hurt and then you kind of have to like find a new identity almost. Like it feels weird because when I got hurt, it was like everything else nothing else mattered. Like all that mattered was me trying to like rebuild my body, trying to get back to how I felt before in my body. I didn't feel free in my body anymore. It's like it's a weird feeling.
yeah, and it's true. And when youth athletes, I mean, to your point, that
Mhm.
is their identity. Hey, I'm the volleyball star. I'm going to go to college. Oh, I tore my Achilles. I blew my ACL. I got to go in for shoulder surgery. Got all these things that we have to overcome in order to get to the roster spot at the university. But the university always are already looking at you going, well, you're injured. You're
Yeah.
damaged goods. I'm going to invest my time and effort in the ones that are not.
Yeah.
You kind of get pushed to the backside, unfortunately, because university is a business,
It is.
and business sometimes sucks.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
call it what it is.
Yeah. You kind of become like a commodity instead of just like a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. And when you're looking at sort of youth athletics, these are some of the things that you just have to think about.
Yeah.
But I guess we probably should introduce the audience.
Yeah. I love how we got right into it.
So anyways, I'm a guy named Brad Thorpe. I invented an exercise product called Isofit. So it's the world's first full body isometric training apparatus. And where that comes in, it basically, when you're looking at how muscles function, they fire isometrically first, and then you have dynamic movement occur second. So
Mhm.
basically, what we do is we help stabilize and strengthen muscle structure to allow you to optimize human performance. And it doesn't matter if you're volleyball, if you're a triathlete, if you're a baseball pitcher, if you are human, we can help you perform better and reduce the rate of injury. And
Mhm.
it's quite dramatic. And what we see on a daily basis is phenomenal. We've grown IsoFit from an idea that was in my head. I needed a fancy wall. So don't think that you have to run out and buy my product. You do
Yeah.
not. You can use a wall behind you. You can use a door frame. You can use a power cage. You can do all kinds of things to implement an isometric based protocol. And for the audience that doesn't know what that is, it's about learning how to contract muscle without movement.
Hmm.
So it's like the thing that forms the foundation to all human motion,
Yeah.
which is phenomenal. So it's fun, and we've been able to grow that. So some of our clients that most of your audience will have heard of are the U.S. Army, the
Oh
FBI.
yeah.
We're with 20% of the NBA, so we're with the Philadelphia 76ers,
Wow.
Minnesota Timberwolves, the Miami Heat, the Houston Rockets, Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Toronto Raptors. Um,
Nice.
so they were the last ones out of the list to sign up, which is actually because they're literally down the street from me. But it's pretty amazing what we're able to do from an isometric perspective. And
Hmm.
as I said, my goal is to help people, and that's why I'm here today because I know you have an audience, and I know we can help them. Whether it's getting some sort of scholarship or just enjoying the game again because
Yeah.
they've been injured, and it's like, hey, I want to go play volleyball on the weekend with my friends, but every time I do it, I get hurt.
Yeah.
Uh, and that sucks. So
Yeah. Like one of my friends right now, he has patellar tendinopathy, which is, very common with volleyball players. And Like he's trying out all these stuff online, which, you know, like it has some success for some people, but and he is doing isometrics as well, but he's been out of commission for like over a year. I'm just like, you probably shouldn't take over a year to rehab from just patellar tendinopathy.
Not usually, no, no,
Yeah.
no.
So it's like there needs to be more, like I feel like there needs to be more information on, or credible information on, because there's so much information out there, you don't know which ones are credible, which ones are not, because everyone just backs up their data and studies nowadays with like a bunch of studies. But I would love to kind of dig dig into and poke around your brain on like how we can help those athletes of like, hey, if I'm experiencing some knee pain from like overuse, jumper's knee, patellar tendinopathy, whatever, like what would be the progression you would take an athlete that comes to you and be like, hey, I'm experiencing this. Can you fix me, please?
So, so here's a cool story. So we'll lead in with a cool story.
Okay.
So a buddy of mine, a guy named Derek Millender, he happens to be the S&C coach for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So Derek was struggling with patellar tendonitis for about a decade.
Wow.
So it's not uncommon to have long bouts. And this guy, wicked smart, absolutely awesome. Love him dearly. To be honest, he's absolutely, salt of the earth, great guy. It took us about 3 weeks before we had it resolved,
Wow.
right? And so that's how powerful isometrics can be. Now, to your point, a lot of people, and your buddy, unfortunately, he jumps around and he probably seen some stuff online and says, "Hey, I got to do this." And what people tend to do is they start to attack the tendon that's injured,
Hmm.
right? That's what they kind of tell you to do all the time. But how do you take the stress off that tendon to help you be stronger, right? It is something that most people don't look at. And that sort of takes you down the path of we need to look at other muscles, not named quadriceps,
Mm.
right, in the conversation. Like what are your gracilis, sartorius, some of your hamstring muscles, your gastroc, be it your calf,
Hmm.
um, your plantaris, which is another muscle, your I said sartorius already, but your piriform, that's up in your back. Oh, it's the one, popliteus is what I'm thinking of. So what are these other muscles doing to help support and stabilize the knee structure? Right. And if the answer is I didn't think about them, I don't know what they are, and I don't know how to train them, we
Hmm.
can help. We can
Yeah.
help educate you on the names, study an anatomy book, learn the other names, right? And then it's like, well, you can't isolate a muscle. Well, you can emphasize tissues so that way they work better, right? Now I'll give you an analogy. So let's say that, you have a marionette, so that dancing doll with strings that everyone had like as a kid, you
Hmm.
know, and let's say you had a mass of 100 pounds and you only have one string holding that 100 pounds, right? Well, we all know that, well, that 100 pounds is going to be held by that one string.
Yeah.
Well, one string is going to get tired, sore, beat up, overworked, potentially injured, inflamed, and now you're in that sort of cycle of not getting better. So how do we reduce the stress on that 100, like that string or that muscle? Let's call it your quadricep,
Hmm.
right, which consists of 4 different muscles, 5 technically. That's okay. You look at that and go, well, let's add more muscles to the conversation. So if you add 2 strings, now it's 50 pounds of stress
Hmm.
on the structure. If I add, let's say, 5, it's now 20 pounds. So I've already gone from 100 pounds to 20 pounds. And in my little perfect scenario, let's say there's 10 muscles supporting the mass, so supporting that 100 pounds.
Hmm.
Well, all of a sudden, it's now 10 pounds per muscle or 10 pounds per string, right? So we're able to now make 10 muscles stronger while reducing the total workload on that one muscle.
Wow.
And when we can do that, it provides an environment so this tissue can heal, right?
Yeah.
And now if I get 10 muscles stronger instead of just focusing on one, well, now all of a sudden I can now magnify my strength. Now, in the case of volleyball athletes, I'm going to move quicker on the court. I'm going to reduce my rate of injury. The muscles are going to be able to react faster and be more explosive and more powerful, right? And everyone in volleyball talks about power generation,
Mm-hmm.
but they never think about, well, how do we actually generate more power, right? You need to be strong, like you have to have strength, and then you know how to manipulate velocity.
Mm-hmm.
And what you need to do is learn how to get wicked strong with isometrics, and then go practice the skills of volleyball at quick rates of speed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this will offend a certain portion of your audience, be it the S&C coaches.
Yeah.
You don't need to do squats. You don't need to do lunges. You don't need
Mm-hmm.
to be bench pressing. You don't even need to be doing crunches or anything like that. What you need to do is be making those muscles that participate in those activities, or the marketing terms, stronger, more resilient, more durable, have faster rates of force transference or rate of force development. You need to
Mm-hmm.
increase their peak isometric strength, right? And then people, like, really popular these days is talking about braking force, right? So I'm learning how to control movement and absorb forces, right? So you basically have an isometric contraction break, isometric contraction break, isometric contraction break, isometric contraction hold. Oh, now I can change direction out of that isometric. So that transitional phase of movements is an isometric, because you had to zero out your speed and you had to change
Oh.
direction, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So, and I know the light just went off in your head, because it's like, damn, he's not wrong.
Yeah.
Because and this is where injuries occur, and it's
Yes.
100% of non-contact injuries. This holds true. If I'm moving in one direction and I go to change the other direction, but I don't zero out those forces, the inertial effects of my mass moving, let's call it on your, like, you have your femur moving on your tibia.
Yeah.
If I'm moving in one direction and I go to cut and change the other direction, and my mass is moving one way and my foot is planted, I now blown apart my ACL.
Yeah.
I've torn this muscle. So it literally is an inability to actually contract your muscles isometrically in real time.
Wow. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, well, now that you do, what you'll see in about a week, all your athletes, if implemented,
Mm-hmm.
will start to perform better within a week.
Wow.
It literally is that efficient. And the research, because everyone loves research,
Yeah.
what they say is about 3 workouts, they'll be able to activate their muscles isometrically at 100% contraction rate. Right? But if you start training that way and then you go to a dynamic environment, well, if you're accustomed training at 100% contraction rate and you cannot move if you achieve 100% contraction rate, just to let
Yeah.
you know. So, but you can get wicked strong, and then you got to practice the skill of movement.
Mm-hmm.
And when can you combine that, you have power development.
Mm.
So it's interesting. So to jump back to your guy, and how do we help him recover? Well, now, when you get into the technical side of isometrics and tendon blood flow, right? Because tendons aren't very adept. I think it's adept, whatever it is. To have blood flow going into the tissue,
Mm-hmm.
isometrics is a great way to basically increase blood flow. And what you want is a higher level of contraction, like intensity. So like
Mm-hmm.
50 to 75, it doesn't need to be 100. And longer holds from a duration perspective, 45 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what you can do is also strengthen the tissue, be it the muscle, strengthen the nerve system. You can strengthen the tendon structure, and the tendon, of course, attaches to bone structure, right? And bones have a specific amount of elasticity. Tendon structures have a specific amount of elasticity. And the stiffer that they are, the higher the elastic quality goes up. We usually get that wrong. We usually think like a rubber band, which is really stretchy,
Mm-hmm.
that has a high level of flexibility, which will actually reduce force output. So the
Right.
reason that a lot of athletes are now getting injured is we're trying to work on range of motion, trying to get them looser. What we should be doing is trying to get range of motion and trying to make them stronger and stiffer in those ranges. So that way, when you go into those positions, you can control it.
Right.
Right. So because you know Jason, and you know the kinetic arm, which is an unbelievable product, right?
Yes.
And it's going to help a ton of volleyball athletes over the next several years, decades to come.
Hmm.
What it is, it further reinforces and gives external stiffness and structure to, all the collateral ligament, shoulder structure, and all that. So when you're going through the hitting phase, it's more stable.
Yes, and you can feel it right away. That's the crazy thing. Like I put it on first time doing it, I was like, wow, like I feel so much more stable.
Yeah.
Because I have shoulder and elbow problems too, because one time I was, practicing monkey bars at the gym, trying to like swing. And I slipped one time and I kind of got caught like this. So like I felt something rip in my like, I don't know, somewhere in my shoulder blade, somewhere, I don't know the exact point, but ever since then, like my shoulder and elbow's been like hurting ever since, like if I load it too much in a specific position. And when I put it on and I was practicing, just trying it out. This was like before I like teamed up with them. I tried it out, and I was like, "This is a game changer." Like I don't feel the pain or instability that I used to like right away. Like it was just that quick. It
Well,
was
and
crazy.
let let's talk about that word you just mentioned, instability,
Yeah.
right? So here's a unique perspective on that word.
Okay.
If you are moving, you have to be unstable. Otherwise, you don't move,
Right.
right? So where Isofit fits in isometric exercise is we can actually increase the stability where dynamic exercise does not increase stability.
Mm.
It
Yeah.
will increase your ability to control movement. It will increase range. It will increase all of these wonderful things. But stability, it will not, because you're moving through that range, right?
Right.
We forget like the motion of, spiking and all this sort of stuff. I mean, look at how much stuff we're doing above our head.
Yeah.
If that glenohumeral joint, be it where your humerus, that upper arm bone, goes into your scapula, which is your shoulder blade, if that's not stable, during motion, and or contact, well, what's going to happen to the shoulder structure? You had a freak incident where your arm got pulled behind you.
Yeah.
I was working with this one lady. Actually, she came on to me after she injured herself, but she was in the Canadian national alpine team. So skiing. So she was
Hmm.
trying to, so world circuit, that level quality of an athlete. She was demonstrating on a Sunday morning to a group of 12-year-olds how to do an Olympic sort of lift.
Hmm.
Something went wrong. There was a neural impingement of some kind. She couldn't let go of that hand. It fell back behind her and ripped all 5 ligaments in her shoulder, and her career was over. Yeah, so I mean, you can look at some of this stuff. So not to say that, I mean, there's different severities to injuries and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But when it comes to exercise selection, we have to be smarter.
Hmm.
Taking something that is so complex and so like high skill required, because you work with 11 and 12 and 13-year-old kids,
Yeah.
they just got to be 6'6", in the volleyball space. So they're
Hmm.
long and they're gangly, and we look at these kids and going, wow, you're a giant. But what we forget is you're prepubescent, you're underdeveloped, and you're a gangly giraffe who's just like,
Yeah.
fresh out of yet they're controlled and, obviously highly skilled, but their training age is super young. Their limbs are super long, which puts them
Hmm.
at greater risk of injury.
Right.
So it's about how do we sort of address the instability before we just say go play volleyball, because we're not going to tell them not to play volleyball.
Right.
Um, you know, so it's just having that mindset to say, hey, what can we do to help these kids? And it'll always circle back to be stronger, but be more stable. So you have
Hmm.
a choice. You can make them strong and unstable, right? Which you talk about all these compensatory movement patterns that lead to injury, post injury. I had to change the way I move, and I'm compensating.
Hmm.
Why don't you just train different?
Right.
So you don't have to do any of that stuff. So I don't get injured. So I don't have to compensate. I shouldn't say don't injure or don't get injured. It reduces your rate to near zero.
Right.
you know, because there's always a probability that, you can. Uh,
Hmm.
we just happen to, with our athletes that we work with, it becomes a lot less.
Yeah.
And as I said, they notice massive gains within a couple days anyways.
Yeah. So if you were giving me advice, which I would love for you to give me some advice, um, right? So I kind of like something happened like this when I was like trying to hold on to the monkey bar, and like something just happened like this, and I feel, I definitely have more range of motion on my right side than my left side, but my left side feels way more stable. Like feels like just, you know, tighter,
Yeah,
tighter. It feels more stable. So what should I do for this side to make it, stable again?
so what you would want to think about if you just took that one position and, yeah. So if you run over to your wall right there and the
Right there?
wall, yeah, the one over there by the bag, right? Yeah. So there. Now, don't push, but don't think stretch. So step back just a little bit towards the camera, and now think push forward into the wall. Don't lean. So think push your hand into the wall,
Got it.
right?
Yeah.
So that's going to fire up your bicep, your pec, all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, if you were to turn 90 degrees, so bring your left shoulder closer to the wall.
Left shoulder.
Yeah. And now think push sort of into the wall still. So feel how that just changed everything. That's going to be more your pec.
Yeah.
Right now, if you turn and face the wall, right now, think pull your hand across. Right. So see how now think fully extend your elbow and reach up as high as you can and do the same things. You might have to step forward a little bit closer to the wall. Right. Reach up even higher, 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 higher. Now feel how that forces you to side bend to the left.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how you're going to increase your spike touch height of all your tests.
Whew. It's tiring.
Right. So I mean, and that's something very, very simple when you look at it and you go, okay, well, it doesn't take much to fatigue. That usually is a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing is when you're looking at dynamic strength versus isometric strength, you can increase your dynamic strength doing dynamic exercise, but it almost renders your isometric strength gains to near zero.
Mm.
Not much benefit isometrically while doing dynamic exercise. The inverse of that is true for isometrics. If you're doing isometrics along a path of motion, you'll basically get the dynamic strength gain, and you will also get the isometric strength gain.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's kind of like you get that natural protective mechanism
Yeah.
within there. Now you do have to go and practice your swim mechanics,
Yeah.
but you don't have to go do shoulder press.
Right.
You don't have to chin up. You don't have to do a lat pull down. Those, if you want to,
Yeah.
but it's not a requirement.
Hmm.
So you have to think about what is the goal of the athlete, right?
Yeah.
So if your goal is to get stronger and more stable, okay, well, you know how to get stronger, and now you understand how to get more stable by increasing the isometric strength.
Just doing that a little bit, it does feel more stable. Just
Yeah,
like just raising my hand up in this position, like
yeah,
it feels more stable.
yeah. And you would also face away from the wall and think, pull your arm back into at various ranges. So
Mhm.
if you want to keep simple, 30 degrees off body, pull straight back.
Yeah.
60 degrees off body, pull straight back. 90, 120,
Just
150.
whatever positions you want to get stronger and you do that.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's going to be a carryover to other tissues because it's not just, oh, I'm getting stronger at this one position. I'm
Hmm.
getting stronger at this one position. And all the subsequent joints
Mm.
that would be responsible for that position
Got it.
fell, right? So when I said, hey, do you feel that in your left trunk? And you're like, yeah, because when
Yeah.
I go to actually raise my arm up higher,
Yeah.
I have to side bend to the opposite side because my rib cage needs to sort of shift in
Yeah.
order to have my scapula slide up. And that's just normal mechanics for structure. But a lot of people, they don't understand how things work. And they say, just do it. As you got your Nike symbol on your shirt. And there's nothing wrong with just do it once you understand how to do it.
Yeah.
But until you understand how to do it, just doing it may be negligent.
Yeah.
And it may put you at risk. And all of these other negative things that we have to just explore, right? So with you, it's just, get stronger. And, I'm happy to sort of send you sort of a program-ish thing to follow,
Hmm.
and your shoulder be much stronger. And then reinforced via, your kinetic arm that you got.
Hmm.
So you're just going to become like this freak. You'll be back
I
on the
would
surface
I
before you
would
know.
love to be a freak.
That reminds me. So I used to work with this guy, a couple of different guys that I used to work with. So one guy was Shawan Vernon Evans.
Hmm.
So he recorded the second highest touch height in volleyball history
Hmm.
at 12 foot
That
6.
was the guy that you sent the article over, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so I started with him when he was 16 years old, so young kid. So we helped him increase his vertical touch height by 3 inches in 7 hours of time.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. It's
That's
really,
ridiculous.
but what people don't understand is, well, if you don't know how to transfer force throughout the structure,
Uh-huh.
why should you get rapid improvements?
Hmm.
We didn't do plyometrics. We didn't do weightlifting. All we did was isometrics. And then he was skilled enough to orchestrate all of that. He was 6'7". He had long arms. We taught him how to straighten his arm. We taught him how to side bend, and we
Hmm.
taught him how to orchestrate the connections between all of that. And he had like a 6-second YouTube clip. And basically, he was offered a full scholarship to UCLA and Pepperdine.
That's amazing.
16 years old, touching 12.3.
12.3 is ridiculous. When I saw that, I was like, 12.3.
Yeah.
That's yeah, that's nuts.
Well, and you think about that, and you
At
go,
16.
yeah. So that's basically most people. Well, if you're a 5'5" individual, that's your leg height above a basketball rim. Like he's just the backboard is I think 13 feet. So a couple of years later, and he's grown and gotten bigger and thicker and heavier, and so he touched 12.6 and a half.
Wow.
Which is crazy. And he was 18.
Yeah.
And now he's playing pro ball over in I think he's Osaka, so Japan.
Wow, that's
But
so
he was
cool.
young. He was the youngest athlete to ever make Team Canada's A squad. He went to the Olympics. The success, and when he started, knee pain, shoulder pain, back pain, like everything, because he was 6'8" at the age of 16 years old.
Yeah.
So we had that, and another guy named Sam Pedlow, and Sam was the FIVB Most Improved player in 2017.
Yeah.
We worked with him but the whole 2016 season. And Sam, he came to me because they had a supraspinatus tear that was like 2 centimeters. So he played 34 tournaments on a professional circuit,
Wow.
and we helped him rehab his shoulder. He almost qualified to the Olympics. He lost in the it was what was it? Not the Pan Am Games, but Consica, I believe it was, like for the Continental Cup against Mexico. I think they
Yeah.
lost, and they ended up going to the Olympics, and he didn't. Um, and unfortunately, he didn't end up making the Olympics, but he had a couple more successful years. But
Hmm.
we started in like February, and we helped him 34 tournaments, on that season, which was crazy.
That's a lot of tournaments.
Yeah. And Sam's an unbelievable, great guy and stuff like that. And
That's awesome.
he was a trained physio.
Yeah. I'm actually having him on the podcast soon.
Are you? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Sam is awesome.
Yeah.
I think he was touching over 11 feet in the sand.
Oh, that's crazy. I always tell everyone, because I consider myself kind of athletic, but I always tell everyone if you ever want to see me at my most unathletic playing something, it's two places. It's in the water and in the sand. It
Yep.
is bad. Like I just look like I'm super uncoordinated. Sand is just so hard to play in. Um, yeah, it's just so hard to play in. So whenever I see beach players compete at that level in sand, the cardio it takes and like the quickness it takes, the coordination is amazing. I love watching
Yeah.
beach players.
Sam is a freak athlete.
Yeah.
He's now in his I believe he's now doing triathlons.
Wow.
That's that's what you do. You just sort of say, "Hey, I'm going to give up my professional beach volleyball career. We're going to hang my hat on that one, and now what we're going to do is take up triathlons. Got time to kill."
Yeah.
He's sensational.
That's
Um,
cool.
but I don't get to see him enough. But he's awesome. You know.
Yeah. I love it when I see like professional athletes especially like they finish their professional career and they're like and they got like another goal that they're just chasing and it's just so inspiring because it's like oh like you got more stuff that you're interested in and that's like and that's really what inspired me about Kobe Bryant was after he hung up his hat he went into like storytelling and all that stuff and it's just so inspiring because it's like greatness you know you can be great at anything you just
It, yeah,
put in the
it
work.
literally is mindset.
Yeah,
It's an ungodly belief in yourself.
yeah,
And that's where most people fail, right? They have self-doubt. And once you put in self-doubt into the conversation, I mean, that's challenging to get out of that hole.
yeah, it is.
And it's not to say that everyone doesn't have it. It's how do you navigate through it? And how do you sort of be okay to ask for help?
Yeah,
And like a lot of the stuff, like, I think I have 24 patents, we're in 34 countries, all this sort of stuff. And I wouldn't have, I wouldn't have got any of this way, like if I didn't get help.
hmm
And being okay to ask for help and sort of say, hey, I'm currently drowning. Can somebody like, pull me, and all of those things. So, and that's why I just love, being able to give back and help other people, hopefully navigate the minefield that is life. So you don't have to spend a lifetime with an injury,
Yeah,
and in this day and age, um, it's been jammed down our throat that more is better, right? Like
yep.
how many tournaments are these kids playing?
Oh, so many tournaments. Yeah.
Playing? How many
And
train?
volleyball is year round. It's not like you get a break. Like right after club, they're prepping for school. Right after school, they're getting ready for tryouts. It's a year round thing. They barely get a break.
Yep. And the injury rates are so high.
Yeah.
And so I had the ear. So one of my former clients, and he was teaching Ryerson University, so one of the Canadian universities up here. And whether this inspired his actions or not, his name's Dustin. So it's like, Dustin, do you not think that these athletes are training too much? And all of these reasons, give him a list of, a litany of reasons as to why these athletes shouldn't be training as much as they are. Because I mean, at a university level, if your goal is to win, durability and availability, as they say, is the most vital thing.
hmm
So how much skill are these players going to actually learn training 3 times a week? They're already skillful, right? They're university collegiate athletes that have been playing for many years.
hmm
So what he did, he went from basically a 3 or 4 day a week practice schedule plus games on weekends to once a week.
Really?
They went undefeated on the season,
What?
won the national title. Yeah, because all of their players were now skillful,
Yeah.
but not injured. Rates of
Wow.
injuries are down, inflammation's down, performance levels goes up. When you take a skilled athlete
Yeah.
who is not injured,
Yeah.
playing a skilled athlete who is tired and injured,
Yeah.
who's going to win? Well, 90. Well, in their case, it was 100%.
hmm
They
Yeah.
um, talented squad, so I don't want to disrespect any of their skill sets. But if you show up on game day and you happen to be a better player and you're also in better physical condition on that day, you're going to win.
Yeah.
You know?
So what advice would you give to the athletes that aren't skilled yet, but they're also hurt? Because I know that there are athletes on my team right now that are kind of trying to catch up to the others, and so they don't want to sacrifice the reps. They need the reps to develop that skill, but they're hurt. So how would you navigate that?
You would need to sort of, and this is where I had to go with an only isometric protocol,
hmm
right? Because there's weakness in there, right? And I'm happy to send a structured program that basically designed it for the Toronto Blue Jays, to be honest. Many years ago.
Really?
What that will do is will help teach them how to self-assess, correct, and stabilize their structures so they're prepared for sport,
Okay.
right? Like you think about swing mechanics and when was the last time you did a neck exercise?
Well, I personally actually do neck exercises, but not like not often. But only is because I'm like, oh yeah, my neck is actually kind of weak. Let me and I see all like these. I follow like the fitness stuff, so like where I see something, I don't follow it right away, but I take the concept. I'm like, you're right. I don't train my neck. My neck is probably pretty important.
Well, what is your shoulder attached to?
Your neck.
And specifically like your upper trap muscle, right?
Yeah,
Which is responsible for that, call it 0 to about 150 degrees of shoulder flexion and
yeah,
abduction, which is, spiking, hitting, passing if I'm leaning forward.
yeah.
So it's pretty damn important. But more so, your neck needs to be stabilized in order to generate high levels of power, right? Through the swing and all that sort of stuff. But just to give you an idea, because a lot of people, they don't take the time, and this is the coaching staff and the S&C staff, right? So I'll pick on them for a second. They don't know the names of the muscles, but yet they're specialists. So if you're a specialist, you probably should know the name of the muscle.
Hmm.
You should know its orientation, right? So you have a muscle down the front of your neck called your longus colli, and it goes from C1 down to T3, right? Just to give you a scale,
Hmm.
that is 10 levels of your spine out
Wow,
of 24.
I
So
didn't
if
know
you're
that.
choosing to leave, what is that? 42%, I think.
Hmm.
If I choose to leave 42% of my spine unstable, how do you think that's going to work?
Not well.
And then you got muscles on your backside. There's a muscle called your longissimus cervicus, which basically goes from, if I take different divisions, so it goes from your occiput down to about here. So that covers off 58% of your spine. And high probability, you just heard about that muscle right now for the first time in your life.
Yep.
And that's across the board, right? We've gotten scared to train people's necks, going, oh, I don't want to do it. But yet then we throw them to the wolves and we say, oh, go play sport. But where's your central nervous system?
Hmm.
Your CPU is in your brain, or is your brain, right? Your eyes, which is part of your central nervous system, is attached to that thing you're choosing to leave unstable. Why?
Is that part of why the concussion rates are so common now?
Yeah. And you get over prescription or over diagnosis as
Oh,
well,
okay. I
right?
got
So it's a combination of many things. Kids are no longer prepared to actually play sport like they used to, because now
you.
it's all about like, oh, you only play your one sport. So when you used to run around a lot more, climb trees, jump up and down, and
Yeah.
get
Hmm.
played by your friends because that's what friends used to do.
Hmm.
But they were your buddies. Now
Yeah.
you can't do anything like that. So kids are weaker, right?
Yeah.
And to be honest, they're more fragile than they once were. And now, so things like dehydration. So if you're tired and you get hit in the head with a volleyball, let's say, okay, well, you didn't do anything for your neck, you're dehydrated, you're tired. The recommendations, in my opinion, of go lie down are probably not the best for you,
Hmm.
right? So if I have head impact, I'm going to have a rapid elongation of structure. And if you think about what stretching does, so if I have impact force and that stretches rapidly, it's going to inhibit the tissue, meaning it doesn't fire to the same level of effectiveness.
Hmm.
If it doesn't fire to the same level of effectiveness, it's going to be less stable.
Hmm.
If it's less stable, other muscles around the structures are going to have to do more work. Back to marionette, right?
Yeah.
If I have 10 muscles, right, and that was basically in that 100-pound scenario, and perfection was 10 pounds per string. If I get hit in the head, let's say that cut 3 strings, right? 3 muscles are inhibited, no longer working. So instead of 10 pounds per string, the remaining muscles are now 14.28 pounds per string. So
Hmm.
there's over a 40% workload increase, right? And if I tell you, it's like, hey, go lift 40% more load, in your workout, you go, oh, I'm going to get stronger. Yes, but you're also going to get more fatigue. Yes, and you're potentially going to get more injured. Yes, but that's going to create a level of tension. And you're going to go, oh, well, that's tight over here. Let's loosen it off.
Hmm.
Okay, and when I go to loosen it off, it's like taking a pair of scissors and cutting another muscle.
Mm.
Now, that loosening off, whether it's that, a Theragun or like that thumper gun that everyone uses. You're doing a
Hmm.
foam rolling thing. You're taking out a lacrosse ball and you're just jamming it into tissue you don't know the names of, and you're just sort of saying, "Loosen off, please loosen off."
Yeah.
Get your wish, and it loosens off. So instead of 14.28 pounds, which was already a 40% workload increase, it's now up to 16.67 pounds. So now you're just under a 70% workload increase. Well, now
Wow.
it migrates. So, and here's the problem. Now and you've done this, you're
Yep.
chasing that tension. You're
Yeah.
chasing, and you're going, I'm doing all this stuff and it's not getting better.
Hmm.
Okay, cool. So how do you fix it? Stop loosening the tight stuff and start tightening the loose stuff,
Mm. I
right?
like
Because
how you put that. Yeah.
if I'm tight over here, well, I'm just loose over here. So why don't I make this side tight? Oh, but the pain's over here. So what? It's loose over here. This is telling you there's a problem.
Yeah.
It's an indication. It's like the red light on your car going, oh, engine issue. And what do?
Mhm.
You put a Band-Aid on your dashboard. So you don't that's basically how we treat athletes these days. And
Mhm.
you wonder why all of this stuff is rearing its ugly head. Why are people, like all levels of sport, youth athletes are being decimated, professional athletes are being decimated. And and this is another thing, and I'll drop it on your show because I know it's inflammatory and it'll upset people and all this. Like you've seen all these people doing all these like muscle tests, right? You got all these, they're doing preseason muscle testing. They're telling all these kids how strong they are,
Mhm.
which is like, oh, that's great. A gross measure.
Mhm.
Put at that. Don't use it as a prescriptive diagnostic tool at all. Use it as a
Mhm.
gamified number that says, hey, you pulled this hard, you're this strong. Leave it at that.
Mhm.
What we tend to do is we go, oh, we're going to use that gross data and we're going to now think about it and we're going to try to program around it. And let's say you're doing a Nordic hamstring curl or something.
Mhm.
That's one of the tests they like to do. So I'm training the hamstring. I'm testing the hamstring. Well, not really. There's 10 muscles that contribute to knee flexion.
Mhm.
And they're going to say, hey, but we know how to figure out asymmetries. Right and left side are the same. I was like, okay, do you really? So if I have 100 pounds over here and I have 100 pounds over here, they don't have to be the same because I have 10 muscles participating to create the 100 and 100. So
Mhm.
I have a certain muscle doing 70 pounds on this side, and over here it might be doing 30 pounds. But I'm telling you, you're equal. And then you go out and then you blow apart your ACL. You go out there and you rupture your Achilles tendon because you think you're strong. You were told you were strong.
Mhm.
The diagnostic test said, oh, this number was equal and you were fine. And it's like, no, not even close.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so brutal. It is
Wow.
absolutely brutal. And you have all these people hanging their hat off this data. And okay, well, why are the injury rates so high? Oh, we didn't say it was going to predict or prevent injury. Well, you're actually contributing to it.
Wow.
How do we just get these athletes stronger? So use it as a gross measure. Say, hey, you're stronger. Cool. But you take that Nordic hamstring curl.
Mhm.
Okay, so you start off at 90 degrees. You got your ankles flexed or attached in, and then you lower yourself down.
Mhm.
When you lower yourself down, think about those neck muscles we're talking about.
Yeah.
Up strong or up straight, they're all compressed, like they're stacked on one another. And we get lower down, we're now adding shear force across the joint structures of muscles you don't actually train very often.
Right.
And if we're thinking about how do we control those inertial effects, when we're moving, we got a big, huge bobblehead way up here that 10 to 15 pounds, depending on the size of your head, hair,
Mhm.
like all of this sort of stuff. We have a free floating head that's unstable going that way. I'm going that way. Maybe
Mhm.
that's why that blows apart your knee,
Ah. Wow.
right? Because your foot's fixed, and there's this wicked concept in physics, and it once I was turned on to this, it blew my mind because that basically helps resolve most hamstring injuries, be it tears, and most ACL ruptures. It's a thing called a rolling wheel without slipping, right? So, in Tyson DeGrasse does a really cool sort of thing on TikTok and all this on the subject. But what it is basically, if you think of your car, so that point of contact of the wheel on the pavement has zero velocity, right? Because when you're looking at motion of an object moving forward, you have a translation force or a translatory force forward, and you also have a rotational force.
Yeah.
The wheel or the axis or the axle of the wheel, the axis or the center of mass is all moving that way. And we have these rotational forces. So that point of contact doesn't move because you got a forward velocity going this way due to the whole mass of the car. And then you have the rotational wheel going that way. So they cancel out. So instantaneous velocity of 0. For your head, you have velocity of car moving forward in the scenario and the wheel going forward. So it's double the magnitude. So your head during this event is actually going faster, obviously, than a fixed foot. And if you think of your femur on your knee structure, that's where you blow your knee.
Yeah.
So the benefit to a Nordic has nothing to do with your hamstrings. It has everything to do with your spinal position of holding that, for that period of time to have shear force across structure. So.
Wow, you're blowing my mind over here.
There's my PhD thesis for the young. What the hell is this guy talking about? Watch it a bunch of times, rewind, understand it. It'll help prevent nearly 90% of ACL injuries, which is rampant these days.
Yeah.
It'll prevent sort of the reoccurrence of these injuries because you're addressing the wrong issues, right? We're attacking the stuff like an ACL injury is just a sign something failed. And what failed? It's a reaction of your inability to control inertial forces that led to shear force across your knee structure. And when you phrase it that way, you go, well, how do I prevent shear force going across my knee structure? It's the conversation to start looking at the right stuff.
Right.
And
that's the biggest thing. Like in my experience of dealing with my own injuries, it's like I would train and train. There were times where I was training 3 to 4 hours a day and I wouldn't feel better.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't looking at the right stuff.
Yeah.
And then I would later on, I would only train like maybe 1 hour, but I was actually picking at the stuff that actually was weak and contributed to my pain. And then it's like night and day difference.
Well, and that's what it's how do you have appropriate exercise? What is your strategy to make your body as an athlete better for the skill of your sport? Not to be like, I own an 11,000 square foot gym. I don't recommend 90% of the gym.
Yeah.
Do isometrics and stay there. Practice the skill of your craft, right? And a lot of it's really hard for people because you have to overcome a belief system.
Yeah.
How do muscles work? Well, they fire isometrically first. That means it governs all dynamic exercise. Then you move concentrically or eccentrically second. During the transitional phase of movement, you have to zero out your speed, create that isometric tension to stop your inertial stuff, and then you continue. Now, when you get into the geeky science of it all, that occurs at every different directional change around an arc, right? So you see all these guys doing curvilinear running patterns now, right? Why is it so challenging? Well, because I have to stop and change direction in my brain. It does all these calculations, say, yeah, I'm running on this path. So we can help all of that stuff, and then you have to practice the skill of running, but you have to prepare your body to fire and control those inertial effects to be good at curvilinear running.
So I love this. I'm learning so much. And Jason told me I was going to learn a lot, and I am learning a lot. So tell me, because I want to learn a little bit more about you and your journey of like how you even came to this concept or this principle of like isometric training. Like, what's your background? Like, what did you grow up doing? And like, how did you come up with Isophit?
So I'm a farm kid. So I have like that farm strength mentality and all of those things. And I wasn't necessarily a gifted student by any means in school. I suffered, by the time I was 12 years old, I think I was up to 7 or 8 concussions. So that yeah, hit by a van, fell off a horse, a whole bunch of like weird things, like being a country kid, right? So you have these things, and it was back in the day where it's like, oh, just keep participating.
Hmm.
So it wasn't necessarily the world's best student, but I was really good at athletics, and I enjoyed it, and there was an area where I felt confident in. And I always wanted to sort of be like, I grew up in also a house where heart health was like a major topic. So my
Hmm.
mom lost her dad when she was 15 years old due to a heart attack. So I didn't know my grandfather at all. My grandmother, she died when my mom was 33. I was like 7 at the time, and just the love of my life. And she died of a massive heart attack at the age of 68. So by today's standards, pretty young, all of that sort of stuff. So with having sort of that combination of being like, okay, heart health, all this, the only thing I'm actually good at is sport. The only thing I'm interested in is exercise. So I ended up going to school on a volleyball scholarship to George Brown College in Toronto, Canada. I was the first Canadian athlete to go to school in Canada on a full scholarship at a
Really?
college. Yeah, that's how long ago it was. Do it. So that's going back to like 92, 93, like that window. So studied this program, and it was fitness lifestyles management. So it was all about cardiovascular rehabilitation. And in the program, we discovered that I had some significant sort of blood pressure issues. I'm a collegiate athlete. I grew up playing multiple sports, all that sort of stuff. But my blood pressure was 150 over 100, which by all standards is high blood pressure. So they wanted to put me on medication. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm not going on medication. I'm 19 years old. I don't like medication. I don't want to be on medication for the rest of my life.
Hmm.
It's like there was no strategy.
That
And
was what they were recommending you, just be on
yeah,
medication for the rest of your life?
yep, absolutely. I mean, that's what they do. That's what they do today. That hasn't changed.
Yeah, that's why I don't take meds. And that's why I don't even go to doctors.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not doing this. So go through school, graduate, so I become a personal trainer. And a couple of years into this, I'm running a good business. I got like anywhere between 60 and 70 hours a week clients, like wicked busy,
Mhm.
very social, good at what I do, but I'm social. And if I wanted you to be my client, I'd walk up and say, hey, how's it going? How
Yeah.
can I help you? What's your goal? Figure it out. And it was also new, like personal training in Toronto at that time was, people knew about it, but it still wasn't the thing. So built a great client or book of clients and all that sort of stuff. And a couple of years later, I'd heard about this program called Muscle Activation Techniques. I heard about a program called the Resistance Training Specialist Program. And these are two fledgling programs. And it's going back to like 2000. So you're like 5 years old type thing. And so at that point, it was like, okay, cool, this is interesting. And then I had the privilege of having a conversation with a gentleman who, him and his business partners, and one of his business partners was a client of mine at the time. So, he was like, this guy's name's Grant. So Grant goes to me, he's like, hey, Brad. Oh, and just to let you know, they just sold their company for $300 million. Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm going to listen. So Grant goes to me, he's like, hey, Brad, so what do you want to do when you grow up? And I'm 28 years old, running my successful business. I'm like, well, I'm insulted by the question, but anyways, because I'm 28, like I'm a man, but to him, I'm a young kid, and happy to sort of hear it out and stuff like that. And so I go, I want to open my own gym. And then he asked me probably the most eye-opening question in my lifetime. Like, well, why would I leave this gym to go to your gym?
Mm.
Like, beyond simple, right? Didn't have to be a complex question. And that stumped me. And I'm like, okay, well, so after pondering it for a minute or two, I came back with like, well, because I'm a nice guy. You know, it's beyond funny. And the guy and Grant goes, yeah, you're a great guy, but I'm not going to upset my routine to go to your gym. Like, there's no chance. Like, my office is upstairs, my parking is downstairs, the gym's in the middle. I'm
Mhm.
not doing that. So it's like, so he gives me the best advice ever. He's like, go differentiate yourself. Go make it so I can't not come to you.
Mm.
You know, you have to be more valuable than my time in order for me to go see you. And I'm like, damn. So how do I do that? Oh yeah, these other two programs. So this program called Muscle Activation Techniques, which is an sort of a evolutionary process of how you think about how muscles work. So it was created by a guy named Greg Roscoff, and he's out of Denver, Colorado. And Greg's athletes that most people understand and know who they are Peyton Manning, right? He was one of the reasons Peyton Manning went to Denver after he injured his neck to go see Greg. So Greg could work on him, and so he helped restore his career. You know about John Stockton, and John Stockton being this Iron Man of injury-free basketball, right? I mean, the meme right now is you always see John Stockton, 16 years or 19 years, he missed like 32 games.
Yeah.
LeBron James, X number of time off. LeBron's actually missed 2 years of basketball in his time.
Yeah.
Due to time off, so arguably he's made over $100 million not playing basketball. So good for him. So we'll put that over there. And LeBron's, he's awesome. I don't know. Personally, I don't work with him. But Greg worked with John. When he was in his Hall of Fame induction speech.
Wow.
Thanked Greg.
Wow.
Right. And I mean, so what he's doing is absolutely genius.
Yeah.
But it basically teaches you how to help restore the communication from your brain to your muscle. And there's a whole testing protocol and all that sort of stuff.
You know what's funny? Let me, if you don't mind me interrupting just 1 second. When I went to Jason, I think it was on last Saturday, he actually did some muscle activation stuff with me, and I felt a difference right away. Like it was amazing.
Near instant. If you go to a good practitioner.
Yeah.
I mean, there's different levels to everything, and Jason's a wicked smart guy. So I did 2 programs. So I did the MAT program, Muscle Activation Techniques program, and I did a program called the Resistance Training Specialist program. And I was under this guy, Tom Purvis, and he's probably the world's foremost expert in exercise mechanics. Kind of prickly, kind of spicy. He rubs a lot of people the wrong way, but he was the pitch man for Bowflex on TV. So if you've ever seen a Bowflex commercial, from about anywhere between like 5 and 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, that was on TV talking about it and selling it. And this man, as I said, he's one of the smartest guys I've probably ever met in the subject area. So you take those 2 different programs and you combine that level of knowledge. And that put me to be the 21st person in the world with my designations. So with all of that super knowledge, super crazy stuff, and from the moment of my blood pressure diagnoses to the time I heard about this next life-altering statement, was that isometric exercise, and I'm certified 21st person in the world, wicked smart, all this sort of stuff. A couple years later, I hear about this study from McMaster University, which is a local Toronto university, or Toronto area university. And they basically said isometrics was good for lowering blood pressure. And I'm like, hold on. I went to school for this. You told me not to do isometrics because it was considered contraindicated, meaning don't do it because it's bad for you. So I didn't do it, even though I was doing neuromuscular re-education with isometrics to help restore the communication to the muscle, to reduce pain, to increase performance, to doing all this stuff, and with all and massive levels of success with my clients.
Yeah.
Because the medical establishment said, don't do isometrics because it's bad for you, because it's going to spike your blood pressure. Bad for individuals with high blood pressure. And then this study came out. So this is a 14-year journey.
Yeah.
2 weeks, I had my blood pressure normalized.
Wow.
By implementing a 20-minute per day isometric approach. 14,
that's crazy.
It was absolutely nuts. So I went mad crazy down this rabbit hole of isometrics, going, what do I need to know? I need to be the world's foremost expert in the subject area. And some people will say that I am, because I had this cool stuff with like those 2 programs where I was a 21st person. And then, well, we touched upon isometrics, but you go back to the notes, it's like, oh, there's 2 paragraphs. not much is ever discussed. Most university fitness programs will spend less than half a day on isometrics. Medical doctors they know nothing about the subject area at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I went down this rabbit hole, and that's going back to like 2007. So for the last, 17 years,
Mm-hmm.
all I've been doing is reading every single study that comes out pretty much in the subject area.
Wow.
And it's like, okay, how do I make training more efficient? How do I work with, I don't really work with clients directly anymore, but the broad spectrum of people I would traditionally work with were stroke patients, people with spina bifida, so holes in their actual spine structure, be it their spinal cord. So that side of things, people that have died, like can come out of comas and have what's called an LVAD, so a left ventricular assist device. So it's got an external pump, so your heart doesn't even work. So these guys are kept alive like this. So I work with that audience all the way to the performance athlete and, everyone. So I get to see the craziest stuff. The common theme with isometrics, everyone who I see gets better because it's the foundation of motion. You've been sitting here isometrically this whole interview.
Mm-hmm.
I've been sitting here the whole thing. So you look at the office worker who's got shoulder and neck pain because they want to be on the computer and stuff like that. Help all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get into the science of it, so 6 minutes of isometrics, and this is in the study, so I don't have to make anything up. 6 minutes of isometrics is the equivalent to about 35 minutes of resistance training on selectorized equipment. So
Wow.
well, how do I streamline your training? Do you want to be at the gym for 35 minutes, or is 6 good? If you're comfortable with 35, why don't we do 30 minutes of isometrics and give you the benefits of a 3-hour workout?
Mm.
Right now, if I give you a 3-hour workout 6 days a week, that's 18 hours, but I accomplished it in 3 hours. So I'm going to get the effects of an 18-hour workout and the benefits
Mm-hmm.
3 hours of time.
Wait, why? Why though? Like how? Not why. Like how?
It's wicked complicated, but when you move, you're training the torque. The value of the load changes throughout a range.
Yeah.
Right. It's like when you hold the 10 pounds in front of you, it's heavy. When you hold 10 pounds above you, it's light.
Mm-hmm.
When you hold 10 pounds like by your side, once again, light. So
Yeah.
why does 10 pounds change?
Oh yeah. Okay, that makes sense then.
Right. So I got fluctuating torque values as I go through ranges. And that's why people get injured as well when they lift weights. They don't understand any of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then they go, let's go to velocity training, which means go faster. You're going faster with less control. Okay, well, that's like driving fast into a brick wall. Gee, that doesn't make a lot of sense because the brick wall would be the transitional phase of changing direction, especially with volleyball guys or baseball guys, and that's what Jason's basically overcome. It's like, hey, I can create elastic quality back there and more stability back there. So that brick wall, well, now I can get out of that a hell of a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at sort of stuff like that. But so that was all part of that journey. And when I started to see the results that I was seeing from my own personal blood pressure dropping after 14 years of studying under the world's foremost experts, going to school for it, doing all of this stuff, and nothing worked. And you look at that and you go, 50% of the American population has blood pressure issues.
Mm-hmm.
Adult population, that is. The kids are coming, and it's like, okay, cool. So if we can use it for building muscle, if we can use it for strengthening tendons, if we can use it for getting rid of pain, if we can use it for lowering blood pressure, if we can use it for the prevention of Alzheimer's, the reduction of Parkinson's risks, like all of this memory stuff, right? Mobility is determined by how stable you are, right? That's why when you get old, they give you a walker. They want to make you more stable. When you have an injury, they give you a crutch or a cast, more stable, right? We do all of these things in life. But what we forget about is, what about making our muscular system more stable?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I love Jason's product, and I think he's absolutely fabulous. He's putting on an external structure to create stability.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Train those muscles.
Yeah.
Train those muscles appropriately. Then use his product, right?
Yeah.
And
It's not a fix-all product. I tell my athletes, you still need to train. You still need to strengthen your stuff.
Yeah,
But
and
this will help if you're already hurt.
and more so, it'll actually help if you're not hurt. So let's not even wait till you get hurt.
Right, 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 right.
This is one thing I don't understand, and it's more like European soccer, or let's go female sport, running, soccer, like those cut and pivot sports.
Hmm.
Put a bloody knee brace on before you get injured.
Hmm.
Like, be smart about it, because you're never going to be the same after you blow your knee apart.
Yeah.
So why not be proactive and say, oh yeah, but we suck it up with this pride crap and go, but then once it's damaged, it's too late.
Yeah.
You're spending a year in therapy. You look at that ACL stuff and they go, well, it's going to be 9 months before the ACL is strong enough before you can return to play. And that's what they recommend. You have people that they push through faster, which is, I'm going to say, not recommended. But one thing that they don't understand, when you take tension off bone atrophies, it gets weaker.
Hmm.
Right? So you'll hit, when you're looking at your peak force for muscle, like post ACL injury issues, what they've seen in studies, it takes, once you hit peak force, once you're like strong back to pre-injury strength, it takes your bone another year to get back to the original bone strength.
Wow.
Right? So that's why the re-injury rates are so high. You're pulling off a weak bone. The bone doesn't have the same stiffness. So the muscle and the tendon, in a test for 5 seconds, you can be strong. But add in fatigue, add in competition, add in, the adrenaline and cutting and pivoting and, things you don't test for. So all of these things just factor into making individuals harder.
Yeah.
So, and to finish off the story as to where Isophit came from, and this is all my concussions, by the way, I'm very tangential, and I probably have the worst case of ADHD as well.
No, I love it. I love taking conversations all over the place. It's fun.
So I'm down this path. I'm having all the success with my own blood pressure, and 2 of my clients walk in one day, and I'm instructed them to do isometrics, and as I said, you can use a wall, right? You can do it anywhere. So one guy, he walks in. His name's Alan. Alan goes, "Hey, Brad, this is great. I'm at basically, there's no wall space at my gym." Like, what do you mean there's no wall space? In a normal fitness gym, all the equipment's pushed up against it. You got mirrors up against it. There's no actual wall space. So I was like, oh, interesting. Client immediately after him walks in, a guy named Lewin, and Lewin's done like movies with Brad Pitt and all this sort of stuff. So it's like, okay, cool. I'm going to listen to Lewin. He goes, "Brad, there's no, I set my space up at my home. I moved the couch away from the wall so I could use the wall, but I'm in a basement. My basement's short, so I can't do stuff above me." Like, what? It's like, yeah, seriously, I can't. I'm like, well, do it somewhere else. It's like, my wife won't let me. And so it's like one of those things in a couple minutes, so finish your training sessions. A couple hours later, I'm sort of sitting, and I have an at-home business. So I'm sitting at the bottom of my bathtub, just like shower, sort of like spraying on me. And I'm like, just sitting there thinking, and like, I know how to do this. So I jump out of the bed or out of the bathtub, run to my office. I'm like totally naked, crafting the world's first Isophit. So I got scissors, I got cardboard, I got a paper clip and some glue. And I build myself like this working sort of model of an Isophit. And it's like, oh my God, I know how, that's totally, because all I had to do was create a fancy wall and put it in the middle of a room. Right? So that's all most fitness equipment is. It's we made something more convenient and put it in a room.
Yeah.
Like a treadmill. Oh, that's just an indoor running surface. A Stairmaster is like stairs. The Reebok Step, if you know that, like the Reebok Step, that used to be a milk crate. That's where it started. And a lady by the name of Jen Miller, and I think she's in and around your general area in the Atlanta region. If my memory serves me correctly. But you look at some of that stuff and it's like, okay, I know how to create a fancy wall. And that's basically what I did. I created a fancy wall that we patented. So it's really hard for individuals to enter the market space without sort of violating our patents, because one of my clients, and this is where I'm not 100% sort of recommending stretching to anyone, and you'll understand why as soon as I tell you the story. So he is one of the first people to ever get further stretching.
Further as
Further.
in,
You know how you stretch?
Mhm.
Nobody's ever told you how far you should stretch.
Say that one more time.
Nobody's ever told you how far you should stretch.
Right, no one, yeah.
No one. So he's in a yoga class and he's doing some sort of stretch to help basically stretch his neck. Right. And his yoga instructor came over and gave him a little bit of an assist and broke his neck. He got further.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. So he's got a 3-level spinal fusion, C2, C3, C4. Lucky to be alive. But yeah, broke his neck. Because more is not always better.
Yeah.
If you don't have a defined endpoint, what are you reaching for? You know, everyone, like you see volleyball kids all the time, they're like up and going like, oh, I got to stretch up against the wall and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you want to destabilize your shoulder?
Mm.
What happens if it rips? Did you know there was 5 ligaments in there? What happens if I, lengthen the nerve cell? What happens if I thin the artery? What happens if I weaken the muscle? And then I go, oh, the muscle's now loose, and now there's a distractive force at my glenohumeral joint. You know, all things that I just said that you never considered.
Right.
You go, I want to loosen my pec because it's tight. I just make the damn thing on the backside tighter. You know, and how you would do that would be by pulling back into the wall. Maybe turn. Oh, that's a different range. Now I'm strong here and here. Or as you, I'm strong there. Turn around. And like what we did against your wall. And it's like, so all of these little things. So you can make these athletes injury-free. But Ruben, so the guy who broke his neck, he happened to be one of Canada's senior partners in Canada's largest law firms. So he said, hey, come see my patent lawyer. So I went and saw his patent lawyer at $650 an hour. And, you know, here we are.
Wow. What a journey.
Yeah, it's been, dude, it's been so awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful and grateful for everybody who has helped me along the way. You know, opportunities like this where it's like, hey, you're like, I'm just starting. So am I. I look at what I do every day. I woke up today with like, wow, that's a new problem. And that's a new problem. Well, you're starting, you're going to learn that solution.
Yeah.
You know, and as long as you have self-belief, right, to circle back to, you know, what we were talking about Kobe and like the talented athletes who never stop believing in themselves. Like I believe that my product will be the next spin bike. So and if you think about all the, like everyone who's ever bought a spin bike, you don't know who Johnny G is. He's the guy who created the spin bike. Right? That's me relative to isometrics. Right? You've heard of Pilates. Well, Joseph Pilates. That's me relative to isometric exercise. Invented. I just basically packaged it, created a product that made it sexy, and you know, and you'll experience it when we get to, we send some units down to Jason.
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
Oh man, it's eye-opening. It's eye-opening because people are like, and I've worked with, you know, world-class athletes across the spectrum, like Masters champion, what do you call it, CrossFit. And the guy with Team France for the America's Cup. So we supply Team France for the America's Cup, so the Orient Express team. And he tried it, you know, 90 seconds in, he's going like, what the hell is this? Like, what the actual hell is this? Like, I'm a Masters champion, world champion for CrossFit. And these CrossFit athletes are some of the craziest, strongest, most gifted athletes ever. I may not agree with 100% of what they do.
Right.
I will never argue their physicality.
Yeah.
My God.
Their fitness level is crazy.
Insane. And it's like, and their mentality behind, like, task, what was the task? I can do that.
Yeah.
Sure. And I'm willing to try. And I'm like, no, I shouldn't say no fear, limited fear, but this hunger to dominate. So 90 seconds, the guy's going like, what do you got me doing here? Right? Because my instructions with our programming, with Isophit, and obviously it varies on who it is and what the goal of the athlete or the goal of the situation happens to be. But I instruct people to try as hard as they can for 45 seconds. Right? So if you're pushing it into an object that doesn't move for 45 seconds, what's going to happen is you're going to hit a peak output relatively soon. Let's call it within the first 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're going to start to fatigue.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, as you're going through this fatigue state, that load is getting lighter in real time.
Mm-hmm.
But perceived exertion is going through the roof.
Yep.
Right. So it's kind of like I'm pushing as hard as I can, but my power is going down. My fatigue level is going up. My sort of the chemical process is going on inside the muscle, saying I have no more oxygen. I'm going from an anaerobic perspective to I need that oxygen. I got to get to that aerobic, but I'm keeping also the tissue kind of occluded. So, and there's conflicting research on this. Traditionally, what I said, there's blood flow occlusion, meaning it doesn't get into it. Now they're starting to see, oh, blood actually gets into it. But anyways, different conversation. But what traditionally it was is like, I just run out of oxygen. So there's this level of burning and this like awfulness that's occurring. So this is what this CrossFit guys, and they call it a cyclor. So there's actually spin bikes on these America's Cup racing boats now. It's absolutely crazy. So he ends up basically just getting his ass handed to him. And the guy's insane. So he's like, give me more, give me more, give me more. Then he's like, I want one for my house. So it's all over the map. So we get to work with those injured people to all the way through to the elite athletes of the world. And it's, as I said, I'm just thankful. It's pretty remarkable. And now that we sort of moved our production overseas, we wanted to traditionally we're manufacturing in Canada and stuff like that. So we now have a new price point where people look at the sticker and they don't get like sticker shock. They're like, hey, wow, I can afford that. And I can actually, I can buy that and potentially get off my medication. I'm spending all this dollars on my medication, and like Isophit, it's $1,350. It's not free, but it's not crazy expensive. Where it's like, oh, okay, cool. If I look at that over 2 years on a per month basis, it didn't cost me that much. It was $50 a month.
Yeah. And honestly, I always look at my health as like the ultimate investment. Like anything that I spend for my health and fitness is that's like chump change for your health and fitness.
Yeah, it's nothing. Peloton, like it or don't, it's like, $3,000 plus a monthly subscription.
Yeah.
So we put all our all our videos and stuff like that on YouTube. I personally, I hate subscription models. They're great for business.
Yeah.
I'm paying for them. So I don't sell one to you because I don't like paying for them.
Yeah.
We have 15 hours of content on like our YouTube channel. We have 200 exercise videos. We have our 30 and 30 protocol, like our first 10 programs on there. So, I mean, if you wanted to actually just follow Isofit the best you could without one, all the content's there. It's kind of like, I just want to help people, making money. Theoretically, if we play this card right, I'll be rich enough.
Yeah.
Where my motivation is not basically money. My motivation is basically the scenario that my mom went through, where she lost her dad at 15. I don't want other kids to lose their parents because they're unhealthy. That's my driving motivation.
I love that.
Helping you with your blood pressure, your shoulder, your concussion, all of that. That's what drives me. Like money, it'll be there. I'm 50 years old. I don't have much time left on this earth. Let's call it 30 years, hopefully. If I got hit by a bus, I've lived a life that I'm thankful and grateful for. I'm a small kid, or a small town kid, grew up with a farm, or on a farm with horses in my backyard. I've traveled the world, helping people. So it's wonderful.
That's awesome. So Jason told me that that you do this online thing where people can learn from you. Like, can you talk about that and how can I sign up?
Yeah, so we basically do, and it's every once in a while. So we just basically different sort of subject areas, whether it's, how Isofit affects different systems in your body, like your skeletal system, your muscular system, your nervous system, all that. So we do that. And we also basically, we're going to be reestablishing our certification process. So that way we have what's called an Isofit certified strength coach. And what that is, it's about giving you the foundation to learn how to implement, understand, and also monetize isometric based strength training. Right? something that is needed in this industry,
Yeah.
right? Like the isometrics you've done most likely is what would be called a holding isometric muscle action, like a HEMA. Like you just grab a dumbbell and you hold it.
Hmm.
They're high risk isometrics because when you fatigue, that
Right.
load,
You got that external load.
yeah, pushing you into, you also have to get into position. You have to try to select the right weight, which is
Right.
really hard to do. Where we live in the space, and I'm not saying I don't do that HEMA style, which formerly would have been known as yielding. And there's what's called PIMA, which is pushing isometric muscle action, which is overcoming, where you're pushing into something that doesn't move.
Hmm.
That's what I highly recommend. The other one's just more risk. Not saying it to avoid it 100%, just
Hmm.
more risk. So if you understand how to calculate the risks, good. If you don't
Hmm.
understand how to calculate the risks, bad.
Hmm.
And it's literally that simple. Um, so what we do is we will basically be starting this sort of certification course again. I just have to find some time because I travel like an extensive amount, and
Hmm.
we need people like you guys like on board who want to learn.
Yeah.
But coming out of COVID is like, hey, let's run a certification course. You get like 3 people interested. It's like, okay, it's not worth my time.
Hmm.
And the price points we've had it where it's like, hey, it's $299. We've had it at 2,700. What's the price point of value? Because I see some of these courses out there, and it's like, they're $3,000-$4,000. I'm like, but it's just teaching the same garbage crap that's going to injure people.
Hmm.
So I should be more valuable. And then it's like,
Hmm.
I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the guy who says, let's get the information out there to the widest audience
Hmm.
at a price point that people can actually afford. So if we get the masses, and we could, like, realistically, with your network and your audience that follows you, there are a lot of volleyball people. We
Hmm.
could run a course on isometrics for volleyball.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
would love that because like I'm always looking for better ways to train my athletes. I'm definitely not a coach that is stuck in his ways because I realize I don't know shit. Like talking to people like Jason and you, I'm like, I don't know shit. I need to learn more.
It's a journey, man. And it's about having the passion and willingness too.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, so, and one of the articles I sent you, so Pac-Man volleyball, I just happen to actually have their shirt on today. So, representing Pac-Man.
Mhm.
Um, so this guy, Kelly, who runs the program, I started working with him in about 2012, and they were national champions, like 18U, multiple champions and all that sort of stuff, but they were decimated by injuries. So Kelly's like, hey, you think you can help me? I've been following you online and stuff like that, and I like what you're putting out there. It sounds pretty cool. I said, yeah, sure. So we gave them a 12 exercise isometric protocol that basically eliminated club wide, eliminated injuries amongst all their athletes.
Wow.
Right. And now they're
Yeah.
Canada's most prestigious volleyball club. I think the stats, like, they have like something like 18 national titles, 75 provincial titles, which would be the equivalent to the Olympics and all this sort of stuff, national teams, collegiate programs all throughout the states and stuff like that. And it's just like, you're dealing with kids who have growth spurts that are larger than, and these kids are larger than like normal human beings.
Hmm.
And we need to respect the fact that they're adolescents. They're they're just tall. They are going to get injured. They're actually going to get injured more frequently than a shorter person,
Yeah.
right? Because their rates of rotation and their limbs change the forces. So all of that stuff we're able to, like, sit there and teach you. Really, to be honest, it's not that hard for me.
Mhm.
And I think I'm captivating enough where it's like, hey, let's follow the tangents.
Mhm.
You'll find the buried treasure eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've had so much success amongst most of the athletes. I mean, last year, and it's getting kind of interesting because there's so much involved in sport that you can't sort of nail it down to one thing. It's like, oh, I did this and I won.
Hmm.
But what we're seeing is a lot of the people that buy Isofits all of a sudden become champions. So it's like, okay, what is the one thing, whether it's a team in France and a team in the States and a team like in this sport and this athlete? And it's like, okay, well, cool. We've had UFC champions. The other day I had and he should be a first, so Major League Baseball, he should be a first round Hall of Fame inductee. He emailed me the other day or at Instagram or whatever it was. He's like, man, I just love Isofit.
Hmm.
I was like, thanks. And because I deal with the trainers, I don't deal with a lot with the athletes. So I don't have a lot of first person relationships with the athletes, but I know who's using the product.
Hmm.
Right. And it's like, oh, cool. And I mentioned some of the teams. And well, last year we sort of sold to a couple of these. We had one team in the finals. We had one guy was the MVP. We're talking NBA.
Hmm.
We had one guy was scoring title guy, same guy. We had one guy leading the league in assists. So it's like all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, cool. Many, many, many factors. Yeah. Just putting it out there. Their clubs bought Isofits.
Uh-huh.
Whether they used them or not, what matters is the purchasing of Isofit. So I'll phrase it that way.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the clubs and stuff like that, they're super secret. They don't want their stuff out there. And
Hmm.
but on the flip side, it's like, thank you for being a client.
Yeah.
So we have that, and we were named Hollywood's newest celebrity workout. So we were featured in a magazine at the beginning of last year. Last year. So Zoe Saldana was, one of the stars that sort of, was kind enough to put her name to Isofit. And, for those that don't know her, she's either the blue character, or the green character, who was basically in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. And it's like, thank you. Like Diana Ross's daughter, she put it out to her 13 million people that she was using Isofit.
Oh, wow.
And just cool stuff like that. And there's like this amazing trainer out of like LA area. His name's Jason Walsh. So he has a company called Rise Nation, which is a VersaClimbing gym. And they basically put a lot of their, they took away half their VersaClimbers and put it half Isofits.
Wow.
Because he's like, I want to offer my clients and members a strength solution that's safe and effective.
Yeah.
And VersaClimbing from a cardio perspective and a safety perspective is incredible. So they have a studio in New York, they have a studio in Chicago, and his business partner happens to be a guy named Mark Cuban. So or I guess it's the Mark Cuban company.
Okay.
And
Cool.
like it's just like really cool things like that, where it's like, and the benefit of Isofit, it's everything from that therapeutic to aesthetic to performance, right? And it nearly reduces the rate of injury for all of the people because you just are training and putting stress on tissue safer. So I could push rapidly for 1 second and call it an explosive isometric. I could push for 3 to 5 seconds and call it peak force.
Mm-hmm.
Or I could push and call it isometric strength endurance and push for 45 seconds, where I'm looking to sort of get that sort of fatigue involved, where I'm going to build up that tendon stiffness to make it stronger. So how you structure programming, you work on the tendon stiffness first, longer hold, then you go to peak force, and then in specific scenarios, you work on explosive power.
Mm.
Because if you start here at the explosive stuff and your tendon's not prepared, you do have the ability to injure yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Right now, in sport, they're focused on the 1 to 5 second isometric contraction length. Mm-hmm. It's damaging tissue. It's negligent and irresponsible. They need to do better.
Yes. Yes, they do. Let's click that.
So many people. It's amazing. And that's what a lot of the sports coaches are using right now. They're using isometrics between 1 and 5 seconds in length. And these kids are getting hurt. And they're going, yay, we're doing isometrics. Yeah, but don't be dumb about it.
Mm-hmm.
Hard about it. Look at the processes associated with making tissues stronger. Don't stop looking at these dumb numbers that say, hey, wow, look how strong this kid is. If you're under the age of 20, it's irrelevant because they're not strong enough to deal with the forces of isometrics, because it has that ability. So push hard, longer.
Yeah.
Get the stuff adapted. And more so, do it for your entire body. So your neck muscles, your shoulder muscles, your trunk and spine muscles, your hip, your leg, your feet muscles, like all of these things.
Hmm.
And the whole body needs to, and we take care of all that stuff for you. So we've taken the guesswork out. So it's just, hey, follow, like it's color by numbers, follow a pretty program. Yay. So
So if people if people want to learn more about this stuff, where can they find you and where can they find more ISOFIT related content?
So Isofit related content, YouTube's the best place. So we have a, I don't put, we put a lot of stuff on, like during COVID, we shot over 700 videos.
Wow.
So there's a ton of, yeah, so we didn't put all of them up there because we'll do that, over time. But there's a couple hundred videos up there now. So it's like, hey, how do I do this, isometric for this tissue? So go there. Also Instagram, I post, a fair bit of stuff. Like recently I'm getting back in front of the camera a little bit more than I have over, just still got burnt out from being like camera stuff.
Hmm.
I basically put a 30-minute program out every day. Now it's all basically, what do you call it, like time lapsed, so it looks kind of funny and fast, but you get an idea of like, oh wow, I didn't know I could do all these different exercises on my product. The answer is it restrains all human joint motion for every muscle at every muscle length. So it does trillions of things. It's a matter of, do you understand how to apply force to structure?
Mm.
But yeah, it's yeah, follow us, and if you got questions, just send me a question on Instagram or whatever. Like, I'm very, very responsive.
Mm.
I like engaging with people because I think people, if you have a question, it should be answered. And I'm not too proud to say, oh, I'm too busy, I'm a CEO. I'm a regular guy who wants to help you out.
Yeah.
I'm a pretentious, like, ass, for lack of a better word. I don't get to help you out. And I
Yeah.
want the need of, being able to contribute positively to society. So
Mhm.
all those little things.
Well,
So
thank you, Brad. Thank you for, first of all, coming on, teaching me a bunch of stuff, and just like giving all of that value to everyone that's gonna watch this, because I know it's gonna help a lot of people. And can you plug in your Instagram handle real quick, just so that like if they do want to look you up, they know where to go?
Isofit, so ISOP as in Peter, H as in Henry, IT. So Isofit, so
Mm.
PH, higher level. F stands for failure. I like to always saying that. So Isofit dot, oh, sorry, isofit.com is the website. Instagram handle is isofit underscore inventor.
Mm-hmm.
And then the corporate one, if you want to follow that, is just Isofit or at
Nice.
Isofit.
Nice.